Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 235 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Eric Bass from Shinedown, I want to remind you about the upcoming Mistress Carrie Grunge Brunch at City Winery Boston with Five Against None. Doors open at 11, and Five Against None, performing Pearl Jam's MTV Unplugged, starts at noon. Day drinking, charcuterie, stuffed French toast, and more. Tickets are on sale now. Check the events calendar at mistresscarrie.com. Eric Bass is the bassist and producer for Shinedown. And while the band is currently in the studio working on their 8th studio album, Eric also just announced his debut solo album, Eric Bass Presents I Had a Name. The concept album is being released on February 28th, and I had a chance to sit down and talk to Eric about his solo project and how it differs from the upcoming Shinedown music. We also talked about the holidays, his musical upbringing, growing up in a veteran family, mental health, songwriting, touring, the barbecue in Charleston, and so much more. I can now say I've had all 4 members of Shinedown on the show. The links to all of the other interviews are in the show notes of this episode. So allow me to introduce you to Eric Bass from Shinedown.
If it isn't one of my favorite people. Hello.
Oh my God, it's so good to see you.
How are you? Good to see you too.
I'm so good. Thank you for doing this. I know
Thank you.
Around Thanksgiving and Christmas, you guys try so hard to take a little time off and spend time with family. So
there is no time off. There's zero time off. Today I've still got 4 videos to finish for this project, and so I've been finishing the second one up, but there's a lot of stuff to it, man. I'm editing all the videos myself, and I had to learn how to do VFX and key things out of frames and stuff I knew nothing about prior to this. So it's been interesting trying to do it all myself. But,
so you have no one to blame but yourself, Eric. That's correct.
Well, I have a hard time, if you want something done the way you want it done, do it yourself, right? And so, I had someone else lined up to edit the videos, and I just realized I needed to edit them. And the interesting thing about it is that video making, because I never directed anything either, so I directed these 5 videos too, and the interesting thing is it's very much like record making. So it's like the second that I started doing it, I'm like, oh, I know how to do this, because it's just a different medium, but the whole process and all of it's the same. So when it came to the editing, it was like, that's a lot like mixing, right? So it's, just kind of happened. It came naturally, but that means that the work never stops, because I am still in the midst of editing videos, and I have a Shinedown record to work on, everything else, so it's just nonstop.
Well, for anybody that doesn't know what's going on, you made a massive announcement, and I think shocked a lot of people, including me, that you're releasing a solo project, and that's what all of these videos are about. So I Had a Name is this new concept album that Eric Bass Presents is releasing in February, and you released Mind Control, which is the first single and the first video. Thank you for making so much of it purple, by the way.
I know. I thought about you with that.
So how many songs are on this concept record?
I believe there are 12 tracks. There's a hidden track that's not really hidden because I used to love hidden tracks back in the day. So there's a track at the end of the record that would be a hidden track. It'll be a hidden track on the CD. How about that? But yeah, just 11 songs in total.
So does that mean 11 videos? Are you making a video for every song?
No,
oh, okay.
I would like to have, but just time and money being what they are. This is all self-funded, all self-done. So all of those things being said, just I think 5 is enough for my bandwidth because they're very cinematic and they roll one into the next. It will be at some point it will all be released as a full piece. So.
You can obviously tell when you announce this project on social media how much support there is from the Shinedown guys because they were commenting immediately on Instagram and Facebook, so excited for you. So there should be no fear that this project is disrupting Shinedown in any way by the fans.
No, not at all. None of that. In fact, I made this record. This record has been finished for a while. It happened. I made it between Attention and Planet Zero. So I finished the last mix 2 days before Brent and I started writing what would be the record Planet Zero. So it's been finished for a while, and I just didn't have any time to release it, and I wasn't really sure I wanted to. And that might make sense to creatives out there, maybe not to anyone else. Why would you not want to release something? But I made it for myself, and I just kind of wanted to see if I could do it. And I love the fact that it exists, and in some way I wasn't sure I wanted to expose it to everyone else, but my band being who they are, and along with my wife, they were all almost threatening that I should release this record. Like, you got to release it. If you don't do it, we're going to sneak in and we're going to grab it out of the Dropbox and release it ourselves or whatever. So that the band is this very well. A lot of people might not know this, but we would make the most boring reality show ever because there's no real drama. There's no high drama. I mean, there's high drama when it comes to the passion about what we're doing, and yes, we have arguments and disagreements and stuff, but we all still ride the same bus. We all still stay in the same hotels and fly together, move together. When we're making records, Brent and I see each other every single day. He's here in Charleston all the time. And, there's no dissent or anything like that. So anytime someone in a band releases a solo record or something, that's the first thing people think about is their trouble in paradise. And they couldn't be further from the truth. There's a lot of love in paradise. And this record is actually out because of those other 3 brothers of mine that really wanted me to release it. So
you guys really do, as a band, focus on giving each other grace and space, both for your mental health, but your family's health, and being able to spend enough time at home with the kids. Just really making sure that you guys are as well-rounded as people, which I think a lot of bands end up there. Because they go through hell to get to that realization that they won't stick around. And you guys have kind of always had that since you and Zack kind of joined the band, that Shinedown's been like that the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, when Zack and I joined the band, the destructive nature internally of the band was, look, I wasn't there for the first iteration, so I don't know. I honestly don't ever really ask too much about stuff. But I do have to say this. Like, I say this in every interview whenever it comes up. Is Brad Stewart is like one of the nicest dudes ever, and he's been nothing but just the nicest guy to me from the beginning.
He is such a sweetheart.
Yeah, it really is, man. So, but anyway, I wasn't around for that dysfunction or whatever was going on there. But when we joined, I mean, that pirate ship was still, I mean, in full motion. I mean, the sails were up and it was moving forward, and I got dropped into the pirate ship, so to speak. And we continued like some pretty self-destructive activities until, right around the time that, everyone got pretty healthy on Amaryllis, but then fell apart again between the making of Amaryllis between the end of Amaryllis tour and the making of Threat to Survival and early into that touring, it was really bad, like super bad. But then since then, we've all of us have somehow managed to turn everything around, and a lot of that has to do with being there for each other and what, like you said, supporting each other and giving each other some grace and we so it's not like it was instantaneous when Zack and I joined the band, that all of a sudden, things we were just always like this. We always cared about each other for sure, but or grew to care about each other, I guess, in that way. But now it is very much that. I mean, I got a text message from Brent about, because we have to really get into making the Shinedown record, and I'm in the middle of releasing this stuff, and so he's like, hey man, the last thing I want to do is stress you out. I don't want it to be, and it's like, I'm so blessed to be in a band where that's how we start. That's the place we come from. And we do the same things with each other. It's like, I mean, even the things that I get aggravated about when it comes time to, like, I think a lot of people can identify with this. When you're by yourself and you're aggravated about something, you're just fuming about it and you're going over in your head what you're going to say and blah, 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 blah. But then I get in front of these people and it's like, hey man, like, these are your brothers. These are the people that you love. So like, and we always find a way to, like, and everything always works out, because we don't come from this fiery place with anything. So, I guess that's a long explanation or answer to your question, but.
Well, I talked to Barry when the third Hot Sauce came out, which, by the way, I think his tongue is broken because I cannot handle the heat the way that man can with hot peppers. Yeah. But I drilled him pretty good about gossip on the new Shinedown record. Mm-hmm. This is what he told me then. Okay. That you guys were neck deep in it. Mm-hmm. That it is not going to be kind of a generalized theme album, that all the songs are different, which is something you haven't done in a while. Mm-hmm. He said there's a possibility we could get new music before the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And that he expected the album to come out in the first quarter of next year. Mm-hmm. And for you guys to start touring maybe around March. Okay. Is all of that still the same? Or did that bastard lie to me?
Neck deep in it, yes. I would say we're 85% done writing, probably a third of the way done, completely done with the record, meaning that we have songs that are mixed and done and everything. We have a lot of work still left to do. No new song by the end of the year.
Okay. Liar.
Probably no new record by first quarter.
Whoa!
Probably no new record by first quarter. But definitely next year.
Yep.
I would venture to say middle of next year. If this is just me, I'm just the producer. I'm just back here looking at this from
yeah, you have nothing to do with it at all.
I got a pretty close view on it, and I probably touring closer to what Barry was talking about. Yeah, okay. I would imagine. Yeah. So that's he wasn't completely wrong about everything, but that was a while ago, right?
That's right.
So it's like,
that's right.
So this is how things are evolving. But a lot of that kind of pushing stuff back and people getting mad at me has to do with this record that I've made and having to see that through, and also giving I Had a Name its due, because it's not going to come out till February 28th. And at the same time, still actively working on the Shinedown record too. So my bandwidth and my space, I'm one of these people, man. I got to do one thing at a time, and I have to do it. If I do one thing at a time and I pour myself into that whole thing, it's going to be great. The minute that I start trying to spread things around, they don't end up the way I want them to. So if I want the Shinedown record to be great, then that's all I have to be doing at the time. So again, I have to get through editing these videos and getting them all done and taken care of and packaged and ready to go. And then, once that happens, I can be doing interviews like this and do the Shinedown record, of course. So that will continue. But concentrating creatively on one thing at a time, that's kind of that's why I have to stay, It is pushing the Shinedown timeline back just a touch, but it'll be worth it. And also, one thing I forget that you asked about the Shinedown record as well is it is not a concept record. No, it's just going to be a straight up Shinedown album. So, which is different. I mean, again, people can blame me for it or whatever they want to do. The Planet Zero was an unintentional concept record because of the interludes that happened and the way it all got kind of woven together. And the subject matter was there already, but that happened the last 3 days of making the record. We made those interludes and then ta-da to concept record, so to speak. So, and Attention was a story record as well. So, and then my record that fell right in the middle of that, I Had a Name, is obviously a concept record. So, yeah, the Shinedown record is just going to be just a collection of great songs. So
I've had this conversation with artists like Jerry Cantrell, who have obviously straddled solo projects and a successful band.
Yep.
And I'm curious what your answer is. Talk to me about the difference in the process of creating the Shinedown record you're working on and I Had a Name. Writing wise, talk to me about the different workflow.
Yeah, there are pros and cons, and the pros and cons are the same thing. The pros and cons are that I'm making a Shinedown record with others, and I'm making the Eric Bass Presents I Had a Name record by myself. And those are the pros and cons. Like, the pros of making it by myself is I'm making it by myself. It doesn't have to be anything more than what I want it to be, and I can be as weird as I want to be. I can go off on tangents as much as I want to go off on tangents. I can write whatever I want to write. I can write about whatever I want to write about. I can embody this greater story that goes along with the record that is coming out in graphic novel form next year, later next year. But I can entertain all of those absurdities and do whatever makes me feel good. When I'm doing a Shinedown record, I have other opinions. I have other people I have to listen to. Now, I do have a pretty loose reins when it comes to making a Shinedown record. I mean, no one's standing over me going, "You better not do this" or "Don't do that." But look, I've thrown things into records and thrown things against the wall that the other guys are like, I don't know about that. That might be a little too far, a little too much. And so whereas if I had my way, I probably would have left those things. The cons to making a record all by myself are the fact that I'm writing lyrics, especially. It's always lyrics. When you're writing lyrics, you don't have anybody to bounce anything off of. And so when Brent and I are writing a Shinedown song, like when we're writing Symptom of Being Human or whatever, just insert song here, we look at each other and we're like, is that good? That's great. That sounds good to me. Or, we kind of get approval from each other, or what do you think about this? Or maybe I love something and he doesn't, and we go back and forth about it lyrically. And then we end up, coming to a place, or he sees it my way or I see it his way or whatever. When you're writing by yourself, you have no one else to look at to ask if this is great or not. And especially when you're trying to do something different, like a record that is about a fictitious world or something. And so, I'd write these lyrics, and there were certain lyrics I knew were great, but there are other ones that you just have questions about. It's like, is this as good as it can be? Is this the thing? Is this what it's supposed to be? Or did I get the point across with this? And there is no one else in the room to talk to about that. So, musically, it's never a problem. Musically, it's like, I kind of, when you hear something back, if it, for me anyway, I kind of know if I like it or I don't. And there'll be little things, but as a whole, you pretty much know. With lyrics, it's so subjective, and but that's the pro and con of that, is that it's a con for me me being able to say whatever I want to say is the pro. The con is that I'm the only judge of its worth at that point. So, that's the biggest difference. The other thing is there's nobody, and again, not that anybody's breathing down my neck, but there's nobody waiting on me with my record. And with Shinedown, they don't make me feel that way, but I feel it. I feel the fact that there's a clock. And,
there's a machine behind Shinedown.
Yeah, you're right. And so, look, whether you want to, whether you want to talk about the elephant in the room or not, there are a lot of people that make a lot of money with this band, and none of them are calling me or anything, but I know they're waiting, and
albeit patiently and quietly, but they are looming.
Right. But again, no one ever calls me. No one ever asks about anything. There's never any of that ever. There never has been. I've always been given enough time to make the Shinedown record and do it to its full extent and do it greatly. But that's just me. I'm kind of an empath, like I feel things and I feel eyes on me. And right now, especially, like I know my bandmates are kind of itching to get working on a record, and I'm sitting here going, hang on, hang on, hang on, hang on, but the thing is what I have to remind them, and I remind myself as well, is that me saying hang on a second means that it's going to be a better record in the end. Like if I just went, okay, I'll do these three things at once, then something's going to suffer. And it's not just one thing is going to suffer. All the things are going to suffer somehow. And so look, we're at a point where this is the eighth Shinedown record that we're working on. But every time we do a record, we think about it like it's our first record. It's like, this has to be great. It can't just be like, just put it out so we can go tour. No, it's like, this is our legacy. This is what we're leaving behind. This is what we want people to gain strength from or love, and be excited about. So, it's a serious endeavor.
It's interesting that you use that word legacy. Ben from Breaking Benjamin, I read an article that said that, they take time with the records because the new stuff has to compare to the catalog. And that he used the word legacy, that the new music you release is part of that block of success you've already achieved, and it's going to get compared.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't compare yourself to begin with, and, that's not to say that you're like, there's no pressure cooker or anything like that. Like we're not sitting in the studio going, oh my God, like, what are we going to do? It's not like that. It's just, you just have when something's good and when it's not. And when you've got the goods and when you don't have the goods. And I think that's what he's talking about, is you have to take time to let those things develop, like it's not like every song that you write is a great song. It's like maybe every you might write, out of 5 songs, you might write, 3 good ones, but you might not have one great one out of that. You might only get one great song out of a 2 or 3 month writing period. And so, you have to wait on those things to happen, because he's absolutely right. It's like, and this is, I don't know if this is how other people think about it, but it's like, this is your immortality in a way. This is your way to leave something that others in the future will be able to take and love and cherish. And why in the world would you cheat yourself by saying, oh, it's just an album track, we'll just put that out, it's fine, it's okay, we just need one more track, that one will do. It's like, that's not what it's about. And you definitely didn't do that with your first record, right? Like the first record, everything has to be slamming on the first record. Why are you going to do it on your 8th record or your 4th record or your 3rd record or your 9th record or your 10th record? The process has to be, the process has to be worth something for the end result to be worth something. So
songwriting as a craft comes up on the show all the time. You've known me long enough to know if I had musical ability, I would be able to do something with it, but I have zero. So when it comes to the idea of pulling a song out of the ether and making something out of nothing, I am fascinated by it. And when you talk about lyrics, to me, there's a difference between you writing lyrics that Brent is going to sing and you writing lyrics that you're going to sing. Am I right in that assumption?
Yes and no. I think that matters more to Brent, because he has to sing the stuff that I would write. I'm never writing anything that I am going to feel that I wouldn't sing myself. It's always on the person who has to deliver the thing. So, if I do take into account, when Brent and I are writing together, if he's really not into something, into a concept or into, a verse or into a couple of words or whatever it is, and he's really, really adamant about it, that there's, that he has to feel comfortable about that. Whereas if I were writing the lyrics for myself, I probably would have left him in there the way that I loved him, right? And so that's the biggest difference. I don't ever think about me not being the one singing it or anything. So my brain works the same way. It's an interesting question, interesting thing to bring up, because I hadn't really thought about it. But when I'm writing lyrics, I have to have pen to paper, I am usually staring out of a window. I love windows. But I'm not staring at anything in particular. It's just I'm looking out into the distance. Like they have these trees outside this window over here, and I'll just look at a branch or something. Like it's nothing really, and you just kind of
It's almost like
stare
a
at that.
meditation.
Yeah, I just kind of stare at that thing and wait on things to kind of come in, and then start writing them down when they do. Uh, that's when, and I did the same thing writing. I had a name, same process. So,
do you have a journal of song ideas, or are you someone that gets an idea and follows it through the end? Because like I talked to Jerry Cantrell, he records riff ideas and mines them later. Slash does the same thing.
Yep.
But when I talk to Zack Wild, he gets a song idea. He works on that song till it's finished. He puts it away and moves on. It's really interesting, the different process that people have.
I've got Shinedown's interesting like that. I've done the record riffs, write things down, write down ideas, save them for later. I've got a ton of that stuff, ton of riffs like that, a ton of lyrical ideas like that. I love that for riffs because that's really helpful because, you know, when you walk into a songwriting session and you're sitting there and it's like, okay, now I got to come up with a riff. It's like, you know, that is the pressure cooker, right? It's like, you know, what am I going to do about this? So it's great to have that, you know, to have something to jump off of. Hey, how about this riff? And not I mean, Devil is a song that happened like that. That riff in the beginning was just stuck in the middle of a bunch of other riffs that I was just kind of messing around with. But with Shinedown, what tends to happen, and honestly with me as well, is the acoustic guitar, piano, Zack Wild sort of process of like, just let the energy happen in the room at the time. Like pick up the instrument and let's go. Like let's write a song. And generally the riff will kind of appear around that, or the intro will appear around that, or whatever it's supposed to be. But I mean, you know, occasionally I'll have something that I'll bring to the table. Brent and I just wrote a song for the next record. It's called 365. That we both love a lot. And that was the kind of guitar riff for that was something that I'd been picking around on for a couple of days, you know, prior to us coming in and writing. So, I kind of do it both ways, but yes, I do have a journal. I do have legal notepads, like yellow legal notepads, just with stuff on them, just written everywhere, all over them. Ideas, song ideas, story ideas, lyrics, you know, something I'm building with dimensions on it, you know, whatever it is.
Mine are questions. I think mine are questions.
Oh, yeah.
I think of questions that I want to ask people, and so I have those same pads, just like you, all around in case I get, Yeah.
And so I kind of do both ways. You know, back to your question. I will I've got, well, I mean, yeah, think a song like Get Up. I've still got the voice memo of when I first played the piano intro to Get Up and sang the melody that's on there for the verse and pre-chorus melodies. I think on my voice memo, the pre-chorus I had as the chorus or something, just the melody. But that was from 2016, you know, and I've still got that. And that song didn't get written until 2017 or 17, I think. So that stuff happens. I mean, I'll dip back in. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the guitar intro for Symptom was a piano intro that I'd had since like 2013, and I found it. You know, and I was like, hey, let's write something around this. And we liked it better on guitar than on piano. But it ends in piano, which is kind of how the thing was. But so yeah, those things do pop in and out, man, for sure. But the actual like energy of sitting in a room and seeing it through to the end is like what we like to do. So it's like this weird combination of the two things, I guess.
And all of the musicians that I've interviewed, I've never come across anyone with a songwriting process the way that Bernie Taupin and Elton John do it. And so many artists talk about that, which is why I asked about lyrics that you're going to sing versus that you're not. Because in like Sully from Godsmack and I talked about the Elton John, Bernie, like no one else writes like that but them.
Yeah.
And it's so strange to someone that doesn't do it.
Yeah.
The idea that someone would like write out all the lyrics and then hand them to you and someone else can take that and make a song out of it. Like it's amazing to me.
But Elton is, you know, self-proclaimed not a lyricist, right? He doesn't have that thing. And so, you know, he's the delivery system for the storyteller at that point. And it is very interesting. I Occasionally Brent will be like, and he said he's actually showing up in a couple of days. We're going to do some writing, and he's like, "Hey, I've got some stuff written down. I've got some lyric stuff written down." That's always strange to me when we start like that, because it's like I, he can, or if you're reading a poem that someone's written, it's very. I've never really had a lot of success at looking at this thing that's written down here on the page and trying to find the beats in it and the melody in it and this kind of thing. It's always, for me, the easy thing is sit down with a guitar, grab it, just start singing something, or just start just phonetically singing something over this thing that you're playing, and then that kind of evolves into what the beats are and what the melodies are, what the vowel sounds you might like to hear are, and that kind of thing. So it is difficult, man. It's exceedingly difficult when he walks in with some finished lyrics, and it's like, or half finished lyrics or whatever it is, and it's like, okay, how do I fit this into something new? So yeah, the Elton John Bernie Taupin thing, that would you know but I imagine that they're probably just like with us and with Godsmack and with every other band out there, the floor is littered with the stuff that didn't make it. And you're hearing the stuff that's easy, the stuff that, not saying that the writing is easy. I'm saying the stuff that just flows real easily. And I'm sure that Elton, those songs, he probably got the lyrics and he found a flow for them and how they needed to go, and it probably rolled out pretty easily. And then the floor is probably littered with stuff that just he could never get to fit. And I also imagine, I don't know any of this for a fact, but just thinking about it, I imagine that throughout the process of creating those songs that were easy, that he would bring Bernie in and be like, "Hey man, like this isn't working. Can we do something else here? How about this?" And but that's why writing partnerships are so beautiful. It's like there's something that the reason why I like writing music with Brent so much is because it's a zero judgment zone. Like you have to allow yourself the space to, as a duo or a trio when Zack's writing, with us, or we're writing with our friend Dave Bassett. Everyone is afforded the right to be ridiculous, to say something ridiculous, or to say the wrong thing, or to have their idea to suck really bad.
It seems so vulnerable to me.
Oh, it's totally. I'll never get over that. Like I've gotten closer to it. I guess that's my point. Is that with these people like that I write with all the time, I'm closer to that ability to be naked, in the room, and naked in front of the class, because that's what it is. But knowing that they're going to do, the thing is you feel better once they do the same thing.
When everybody's naked, nobody's naked.
Yeah. And I'll never forget this. I was writing with a friend of mine who his name is Jay Clifford. He was I guess is or was, I don't know if the band's still together, but a band called Jump Little Children. Some people might have heard of them. They're more of a singer-songwriter type of band, not a rock band. But he's just a great songwriter, and like one of my favorite songwriters. And I wrote with him one time, and he kept saying this line. We were trying to come up with this line, and I was like, man, I feel like I've heard that line before somewhere. Like I can't figure out where. But it was bothering me. And I was like, he kept bringing it up. He's like, man, I think this is a really good line for right here. And I'm like, yeah, it is great, but I just feel like it sounds really familiar to me, and I can't figure out what it is. But we finished the song without that line in it. And then I'm listening to one of his records later, and I realized that the line was from one of his songs, and he didn't even realize it. And that made me feel a lot better about myself as a songwriter. It's like, oh, look, and also being in that process with him too, and this is a long time ago. This was probably like 2012 or 2011, something like that. It was a bit ago, but watching him throw things out that weren't great too, and it's like, oh, you're not just born with this great thing where you just vomit amazing lyrics all over the page, and people pay for your vomit. That's not at all what it is. It's everyone sucks until they don't, and so being able to be in a room with my friends and write songs, and we all have the right to suck, because we all suck until we don't. is a huge honor, and it's something it's sacred, man. It really is.
Do you remember the first song you ever wrote? When did you realize you could do it?
Like the first good song I wrote?
Nah, it doesn't have to be good. You don't get to claim the first one's good because it probably wasn't.
I mean, when I was, that's how I got obsessed with recording is when I was 12 and 13, 14, 15 years old. I sat in my room with an electric guitar and a 4-track recorder. I actually thought I had invented track recording because I didn't know this. I thought I had invented multi-track recording at one point. I had 3 sisters, and I went and got all their stereos and brought all their stereos into the room. So anybody who's a child of I was born in the 70s, maybe the child of the 80s and early 90s knows the stereos were huge. They were like this big.
Those glass fronted cases with the magnets.
Yeah. And I pulled their stereos out of those glass cabinets and I brought them into my room and I recorded an acoustic guitar onto a cassette tape. And then I figured out that I could come out of the output on one of those into an input on the stereo system, into the microphone input, but also record my guitar as a second one in. So then I'd have another cassette tape with 2 tracks and then take that over to this one and then loop it all back around.
You were doing Abbey Road, Beatles, early multi-track recording.
Yeah, I thought I had invented that. And then my mom was like, no, they make things to do that, you know. So I think the next Christmas, my mom got me a Yamaha MT100 4-track recorder. And I just sat in my room and recorded guitar instrumentals. Like I wanted to be a shredder. So I like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and Zack Wild and Nuno Betancourt and all these guys, right? I sat in my room and tried to be those guys and just record instrumental stuff. I hadn't found my voice at all. I didn't find my voice until much later. But so those are the first things I recorded. I do remember recording those. And I remember like really loving like what I was doing. And that just made me obsessed with songwriting and recording, and it made me obsessed with the recording studio and the recording process. I'm sure they did not, I'm sure if I could find the tapes now, they wouldn't sound as good as what I remember them sounding like. But yeah, that's the first stuff I ever wrote.
Are you the first musician in the family, or is this something that you inherited?
Yeah, I inherited it for sure. My grandfather was, he played in big bands in the, big orchestral bands in the 40s and 50s. He was out in California. He played with the Dorseys and Benny Goodmans, and he's a trombone player. And when they had a family, when he and my grandmother had a family, he still played, but he gave up the professional aspirations. And then my mom, kind of the same thing. She moved up to Cincinnati, Ohio, which in the 70s was the late 60s. Early 70s was the hub of radio, like television and radio. That was like a big deal. And she went up there and started a career. And Nick Clooney, who's George Clooney's dad, was her manager. And she sang with Rosemary Clooney, who was a famous singer back then. It was George Clooney's grandmother. George Clooney's aunt, Rosemary. She was in White Christmas, right? Wasn't she in White Christmas?
I think so, yeah.
Anyway, but then she was in a relationship with a guy named David Wood, who was in the band called the McCoys. They had the song "Hang On, Sloopy."
I remember that song.
But he got into drugs evidently, and pretty bad. And so she moved back home for a minute, and then she was playing a show at the Officers Club, and my dad walked in to the Naval Officers Club. My dad walked in, and that was it, you know. So my mom kind of put her professional aspirations on the side, but I guess that's a long way of answering the question. Yeah, I grew up in a house full of music, you know, but it wasn't rock music. It was other stuff. Like there was no real rock music in the house. It was all big band stuff, orchestral music, show tunes, you know, that kind of stuff. And that's what a lot of the stuff that's on this record that I wrote is. It's really a rock opera. It's kind of taking those elements of rock and metal that I love, and other things too, man. Maybe some hip hop stuff and drum and bass type stuff, and then grabbing some of those orchestral pieces and pieces from Broadway and all of this stuff and melding it into something that I love a lot.
What do you think is the best concept album? Besides yours, of course, because there are some to choose from.
Yeah, you know, look, and this is the most cliche answer ever. I'm the biggest Pink Floyd fan. Like, David Gilmour is if I had to put a pin on my favorite player of all time, is David Gilmour, and I just think the Dark Side of the Moon, of course, is just I I don't know of a record that every time I put it on, it brings me as much joy as that record does, you know, and it's just the same feeling every time. You know, it's like it's turkey dinner, man. I can just put it on and just feel you know feel fantastic and warm and fuzzy about it. And a lot of people say The Wall, but it doesn't do for me what Dark Side does. Honestly, Wish You Were Here as well. Those two back to back, man. What a like. I don't know if anybody's gonna have a run like those two albums back to back ever again. You know, that was pretty huge.
I always ask songwriters about the perfectly crafted song. Is there a song by any artist, any genre that you just look at from a craft perspective and go, that is a perfect example of songwriting? I wish I wrote that song.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of those. There's a lot of wish I'd written that songs. Interstate Love Song is the perfect radio rock song. Like, I mean, it's like what, right at 3 minutes, a little under 3 minutes, gets in and out, says everything he needs to say, doesn't leave you feeling like you missed something. It doesn't sound like they tried to do that, which they probably didn't. You know, you get the riff, you get the melody, you get the sing along, you get all of it, and nobody's mad that it's short. And then God Only Knows by the Beach Boys, you know, Brian Wilson. Yeah. That just from a purely beautiful aesthetic standpoint, like the key changes in that song, the way that it changes keys and moves around, and the first chorus is in the first half of the song is in a completely different key than the last. You know, the first chorus and the last chorus are in different keys, and no one knows, no one even recognizes it. You know, it's just a pretty phenomenal piece of work.
You brought up turning your new concept album into a graphic novel. So you craft the songs, you toil over the videos, which is where you're at now.
Yep.
Are you doing the graphic novel yourself, Mr. Renaissance Man, or how do you allow someone else to come into this world?
I do paint, but I do not paint that like that. I don't draw that well. No, actually, this whole thing started with the graphic novel idea. It didn't even start with the concept album idea. It started. I had this story idea for what this world is. When we were touring on Attention, actually, in Milan, Italy, I came up with the idea in a hotel room, and have been really crafting that story for a long time. And then I had this idea to put a record with it. And so I'm writing the graphic novel. I mean, I'm the writer for sure, the whole thing. And I've got a great friend in Rob Pryor, this guy named Rob Pryor, Prior. You should look him up on Instagram, social media. He's a phenomenal artist and an even more phenomenal human being. He's in my top 8 on MySpace for sure. No, look, I put him right in there with my band and my wife as far as like the people that I'm you know, very, very close to. And he just happens to be one of the most talented human beings on the face of the planet. He's ambidextrous. He draws with both hands. He goes and does all these events. He painted Floyd Mayweather, the Mayweather fight. He was painting Tyson and Jack and what's his name? Jake Paul. Jake Paul.
Did he paint Tyson's ass in the interview before the fight?
He should have. Dude, if he doesn't do that, that's actually pretty phenomenal. That's a great idea. No, but he is doing he's helped me with all the concept art, and he's also all the artwork that you see in the record when the album comes out, all the character artwork. He's responsible for that and taking what's in my head and helping me put it down and see it on paper. And we've been talking about, this is why the graphic novel won't be out until probably this time next year. So it'll be a little later. But the reason for that is the art takes so long to do. And we've been talking about page artists and who to get to draw it. And Rob's come up with a really great idea that's really got me thinking that's for something different. Because that's the other thing too. I really like trying to do different things. And that's one thing about this record is it's not a Shinedown record. It's very it's kind of like what the inside of my head sounds like, and so I really wanted to try to make something different. And so when it comes to the graphic novel, it's the same thing. Like I want the quality has to be there, the story has to be there, the character development has to be there, the world building has to be there for people to love it, but also the artwork itself. Like I'd really love to put something out that's not what people expect it to be. So so that's what's going on with the artwork with that. And Rob and also all the apprentices at his studio too. These kids have been just amazing. I think there are 6 of them there that have helped on this whole project so far. So
did you grow up reading graphic novels as a kid?
I grew up reading comics, but not like obsessed with comics. I just loved I'm I'm the dumb end of the hammer, right? So I like to open them up and just the bright colors and the pages and the Teletubbies aspect of it. I was like, ooh. But I love cartoons and stuff. I'm one of those mid '80s nerd kids, like Transformers, Robotech, G.I. Joe, He-Man, all of that stuff. So I actually had those comics. Those were the comics that I had, were the G.I. Joes and the Transformer comics and the, that kind of stuff. But I'd say one of the most strong memories I have as a kid is the smell of a comic book store. Anybody's ever walked in that ink smell, the ink and page smell of that?
It's like an old record store. It has a smell, or a
same
library.
Thing. Yeah, or like the patchouli smell of a record store, like I'm being serious.
Yeah.
Like that's I smell that smell and it's like because I a lot of people don't know this too. I create a lot with vinyl, so like the intro to Cut the Cord, that that thing is all a melody and stuff that I made using a record. It's not a keyboard. It's like I actually used vinyl records to make that intro. So I use vinyl to create a lot. And I smell that smell of a record store and it's like immediately I just want to go in and start finding stuff to make music with, yeah, but so that's what's going on with the book, and that's what's happening with the artwork. Look, I wish I could draw. I wish I could get out what's in my head and put it down, but I think that I might, they might have to institutionalize me if I went through that whole process. Because I know what just video making is doing to me. So I talked to my like the second track off the record will come out next month, and I'm finishing the video for that. And it's sort of an epic. It doesn't it's a story video. So it's this girl's on this journey the whole time, and I realized day before yesterday that like I'm in an unhealthy place with this video right now. Like it's like my obsession with this is unhealthy. I even told my wife that last night. I was like, yeah, this is because that's what happens with me. Like I get into things and it just things get to an unhealthy point. And I can feel the fact that I'm in that unhealthy place, this unhealthy relationship with this video right now.
At least you're self-aware enough to admit it.
Well, I used to not be. And I've realized now when it's like, when I'm way, way too far in it, there's time to crawl back out. But and it's going to happen with the Shinedown record. It happens with everything I do. Anything creative that I get involved in, I get into that way too far inside of an unhealthy place, and either my bandmates have to grab me and pull me to safety, or I can occasionally pull the ripcord myself and get out of it. So,
you brought up your dad earlier. You know how much work that I do with the military. Mm-hmm. You know I'm married to an active duty Marine. Mm-hmm. I was never aware until I started doing these podcast interviews, how many rock stars were raised by veterans.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. How do you think growing up in a military family affected your creative process and helped you to be successful? Because it's a trend. It can't be an accident.
There are two things that happen. As you're saying that, two things pop to mind as to why this happens so much. And I hadn't really thought about the fact that it happens so much, but now that you say it, I'm like, yeah, you're right. There are two things that happen. When you're younger, it's all about rebelling against that structure that you're, because I had a pretty good balance between mom and dad. My dad was an Annapolis graduate. He was in military school when he was 14 years old, then Annapolis, then the Navy. That was it. Vietnam, the whole thing. and by the time I was born, he was already 40. So he had already he was still in the Navy too. So this is a 40-year-old man still in the Navy. He was until I think he was 45 or so, 45, 46 before he got out. No, but later than that. But anyway, but my mom was this free spirit musician, right? So I did kind of have a little bit of the free spirit thing floating around, but it was definitely like dad was the structure. Dad was, he was the strong arm. And so there's this wanting to rebel against that. But what you don't realize is what you're getting from that structure is a work ethic. And whether you want to absorb it or not, most of us, not all of us, but most of us are absorbing by watching when we're children. And I'm watching my dad be a strong provider and not complain and, command men and, or lead men, and that's what he did. And so I think that the combination of those two things, of the wanting to rebel, and therefore you dip yourself into something that your father would not approve of, which is exactly what happened with me. Dad did not approve of this whatsoever. But when I did dip into it, then you apply that other thing that he taught you to his dismay. It's like, well, you made me this way, right? So now this tenacity that I have and this obsession that I have with making this thing happen, this work ethic, is because you're not going to get there without a work ethic. I mean, you might get there without a work ethic. You won't stay without a work ethic. And that's just been what it is, man. That I think that's probably why you see so much of that is these guys and girls want to break out of that structure, but they can't get the structure out of them. So.
I don't know if you know, because you've been very busy, but I'm on the air in Charleston now. I
meant to call you when I heard that. I was like, I'm so happy.
So you're the hometown guy.
Yeah.
So give me some tips on some things that I need to know about, places I need to go eat, things I need to see. You're the local.
Yeah, I'm way back local, man. I'm born and raised, never left. So I would say, like, restaurants. So everybody's going to talk to you about barbecue. This is always something that comes up here in Charleston, and I am not at all disparaging any of these other locations, because I've had Lewis's barbecue and it's awesome. Everybody talks about Lewis's. There are a couple other barbecue places around, but when I was a kid, there was only one barbecue place, and it was called Bessinger's. When my mom was a kid, it was called Piggy Park, and it was like a drive-in barbecue place. And then these three brothers that their dad owned the Piggy Park place, and the three brothers couldn't get along when their dad passed it on to us. They all separated. So you have Bessinger's, Maurice's, and Melvin's. They're all three the same restaurant. But so you can go to any one of those three places. We're down, I think Maurice's is in Columbia now, but Melvin's or Bessinger's barbecue, can't go wrong with that. That's what you need to do. You need to get a barbecue. It's mustard-based barbecue. You need to get a barbecue sandwich. That's what you got to try. Again, love Lewis's. It's awesome, but it's not like, you want the real local stuff. That's what that is. I live out on an island called John's Island, super rural. And, most people, when they come to Charleston, they go to Mount Pleasant, which is sort of the bougie side of town, or they stick to downtown, Daniel Island, Mount Pleasant, downtown Charleston, because that's kind of the more touristy, shopping areas, all of that stuff. But if you get a chance to just come out to John's Island and just drive around, see some of the rural places around here, man, it's really pretty. And it's not as busy. Folly Beach too. You got to do Folly Beach. Everyone does Isle of Palms, because that's the sort of touristy bougie beach that we have. Folly Beach has always just been like the local beach shack beach. And it's gotten a little more touristy now, but I think there's only one hotel on Folly Beach. The rest of it's just, beachfront homes and shacks and stuff. So there you go.
Locals always know the good spots.
Yeah, man. And I don't leave the house very much. If I do leave the house, I get in my boat, and so I can tell you lots of places to go by boat. I don't really look. Just do yourself a favor. Get on a boat and just drive out into the ocean as far as you can go. That's what I do. I go deep sea fishing. I get on my boat. I go 50, 60, 70 miles out, put lines in the water, fish all day, and then drive 2 hours back home. That's what I do.
I jump out of airplanes without even thinking twice about it. The idea of being 70 miles offshore stresses me out.
It's not, there's again, I think it's that pirate thing, man. I got my dad in me with the Navy thing. Like the minute I got on a boat and got out in the ocean, man, it was over with. Like that's my second calling for sure. I just love it. And so, yeah, I mean, you have to pay attention and, take all the necessary precautions to, if something does happen and something does go wrong. But, I don't necessarily go out there on a rough day or anything. Right. But, you just got to be careful. But
that's when the people in the Navy family have to be grateful for the Coast Guard.
That's right. Absolutely. The one time we have to be grateful for that. I got some Coasties in my family too, so I can't say anything about it. I got all of my sister's husband is active duty Marine. He's an E9. I got my other sister's husband was he's retired Air Force. My grandfather, my mom's side, was in Guadalcanal. He's a Marine sergeant. My dad's dad was airborne in World War II, colonel. So, it's
your family's like mine. It's all over.
Deep in it, man. Love it. Wouldn't have it any other way. In fact, I'm the only, I was the lone boy who didn't go into the military, in my family. Like all my cousins.
Screw it up, Eric.
I know. See, I had to rebel against the system.
Before I let you go, the holidays are coming up, and there are very specific sights, smells, sounds that say the holidays to everyone. So what is the GOAT of holiday songs to you?
Oh, I got a deep cut. Nat King Cole's version of A Cradle in Bethlehem. I believe that's the name of the song, but it's on that Nat King Cole Christmas record. Like, to me, man, that melody and progression of that song and Nat King Cole singing it, like, that is Christmas time, man, for sure.
What's Christmas taste like? What are you having? What's the thing you eat only at the holidays?
My mom makes Christmas cookies, and my dad passed away 2 years ago, but he made peanut butter fudge every Christmas, and he showed me when he was sick. My dad died of glioblastoma brain cancer, and when he was sick, and he couldn't move very well. He showed me how to make it, And last year I didn't make it. I should have made it last year. Last year was the first Christmas without him, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But I think this year I'm going to have to do it. I think we need to do it for sure. So those two things: peanut butter fudge and Christmas cookies.
Are you having the big giant tree? Are you do you go full out, or are you one of those people that's just like, I can't?
Oh, I do. Yeah. We love it. My wife and Kelly and I love Christmas time. My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, actually. Like, I love the fact there's nothing corporate around it, and it's just about having people near you, and I'm a softie like that about it. But Christmas is my close second, and for the same reasons. I throw off all the commercialism stuff about it. But yeah, man, we do the tree. I think this year, we have a year of needing some new family traditions this year, and we're thinking about having some of the family over here to our house this year for Christmas. So we got to go big this year with it for sure.
It is that, because I'm going through similar stuff with my mom because she has advanced dementia and Alzheimer's, and so that reality when you kind of get hit with the idea that you and your generation are now in charge of taking over all the family stuff. That hits hard because I'm going through it. I host the holidays at my house. And so I'm very kind of aware that I'm now the keeper of these traditions.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are certain traditions you can carry on because they need to carry on. And there's certain traditions that will never be the same and you shouldn't try to recreate them.
Yeah.
And so, or just certain memories and things you can't recreate. Even if you try, it's just not, it just doesn't work the same. And I think that kind of creating your own new traditions is a healthy thing to do. But it is an odd place and time to be when you realize that you're the adult now. And I have all these nieces and nephews. I don't have any kids of my own. I'm the only band member, only guy in Shinedown that doesn't have kids. But I've got nieces and nephews who, you know, they've only experienced Christmas one way, and now we're changing traditions in the middle of their childhood, and that's kind of weird, right? I never had to do that. I never had to change traditions
me either.
in the middle, you know, and so. But one of those things is my aunt passed away this past year, my mom's sister, and she was living in my grandmother's house, and she passed away unexpectedly, and so that was the last of my mother's generation of people, in her immediate family, and so that house, my grandmother's house, went away. You know, and we always did Christmas. You always did Christmas there. So now it's trying to figure out how to do it again. But yeah, man, it's an interesting place to be, but. You know, I think that what a blessing to have that responsibility.
Yeah, like I don't feel like I'm old enough to have like my brain.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I'm 20. I'm eternally 20, 25 years old. There is no our Kent Sinkler, who's our head of merch and in our band, dear friend and a great guy. He put it. He has a saying, and it's the most true thing. He says. Guys in bands don't mature past the day they set foot on a tour bus. And it's like whatever age you were when the first time you set foot on a tour bus is the age you stay for the rest of your life. And that is without a doubt the truest thing ever said.
I wonder if the same thing is for when you get on the radio, because I kind of feel like that too. That you get kind of frozen there.
You develop a new sense of self when you do that, right? It's like, oh, now I'm this, and a lot of it's false, and a lot of it's the avatar, right? But there is that, and you can mature. Like Jacoby and I talked about the avatar. We talk about it a lot. We communicate a good bit, and we talk about the avatar and being that other. Like you walk into a room full of your peers, and like the inclination is to be the avatar, to be the guy, the rock star, that person. But learning to walk into the room and be yourself, that's maturity. That's what you got to learn how to, it's a good thing to learn how to do. However, you can be a mature 25-year-old. Like, I'm not saying that I walk into a room and yeah, I can maybe throw the avatar off, but like that internal, I'm a kid thing just never leaves you.
Jacoby and I actually had a really long conversation about his dad and his military service and how it affected him and the artist he is because of it. And the list is so long of artists that have come through that kind of upbringing.
Well, part of my dad's trepidation about me being a musician was the fact that he had served under Admiral Morrison, who was Jim Morrison's dad. And he was in his office. So I think when my dad was an ensign, he was serving under Admiral Morrison in his office, and this went, and it's it was around the time, and I guess it would have been later than that when my dad was serving with him. But either way, the fact that Jim died, and he saw what that did to Admiral Morrison, and so that was a big thing for him about not wanting me to be in a band, not wanting me to ever get a guitar, But Jim Morrison's another one. There you go.
The list is long.
Yep.
Well, I'm so excited for all of the things that you're working on. I was so excited to talk to you about this concept record because as soon as I saw the press release, I was like, freaking Eric, can he not relax? Can he not take 5 minutes to just enjoy where he's at and what he's doing?
No, I can't. I don't know how to do it. It has a lot to do with my headspace, my depression, the neurodivergence and depression and stuff that I deal with. And if I can't outrun it, it gets really bad.
Yeah. And
so, and even look, it's not a cure all. Like I can be in the midst of outrunning it and get hit with it. But, I got to stay busy. I got to stay out in front of it. I got to stay out in front of a lot of things. And again, I turned 50 last month, as well. And it's
welcome to the club, baby.
Thanks. We talk about legacy and stuff. And it's like, man, that really hit me that if I lived, I plan to live forever, but if I only lived for the median age, I've got 24 more years to do something, for a man. I think 74 is like the average age. And I'm like, let's go, what am I doing wasting time?
Well, I think it's really powerful and important. And I know how hard it is. But the fact that you have been so open and honest about your struggles and your battle through all of this, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Mm-hmm. The impact that has on people, whether you ever see them or not, the people that hear the music, the people that go to the shows. It's something that when you and I were growing up, nobody talked about.
Yep.
It was taboo. And
Correct.
we all saw people grow up being ashamed and quiet. And so you kind of breaking that stigma and allowing yourself to be naked in the room, kind of to go back to what we were talking about, the songwriting, is so helpful for people.
Well, thank you.
Especially kids growing up that are not growing up feeling the shame that other generations did because of role models like you. You really, I really hope you understand as a stepmom how important kids growing up seeing that is.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And it's the most important thing for people to know is that it comes from an honest place. It comes from a place of look, we don't know how to write about anything that we don't experience or know. And sometimes you it was a difficult bottle to open up. I think that Brent and I first really opened it up on the Attention record. That was the one where we were like, okay, man, like let's talk about these things. Let's talk about addiction. Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about, waking up in the morning and the first thoughts you have are dark thoughts and how you deal with that. And the other important thing is that I do deal with these things. I don't ever think of myself as a victim of anything. I can feel like that sometimes, but I don't, that's not, again, I know that's not the case. Right. But so me wanting to talk about these things is not from a place of woe is me. It's wanting to talk about these things from a place of helping others and helping other people. And I feel like that if I'm having a thought or a feeling or something that I can articulate, whether it's in a song or in an Instagram post or in a poem or in a painting or in a concept album or whatever it is, that I have I would be remiss and I almost feel like I don't almost feel like I feel like there's a responsibility to write those things down, to get those feelings across if you're capable. And I encourage others to do the same thing. The best help for depression for me has been helping other people. Like there's just something when you do it, when you can help somebody, it does something for your soul and for your brain that in your heart that nothing else can do. There's no meds that can do that for you. And so there's a selfish aspect to it as well.
It's going to be just as big of a part of your legacy as the music you leave behind too, I think.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. And I had a name is this concept record that I made is no exception. I realized, halfway through writing it that I was writing the most autobiographical thing I'd ever written through these characters. And the character Devarin, who's in Mind Control, he actually, at the end of the day represents the depression and darkness and confusion and stuff that crept into my life. And these other characters in the book and in this record represent the other aspects of my psyche as well. And so I think that people are going to be able to see themselves in these songs and take solace in these songs as well, even though they are, like I say, about a story or about other characters. There's the human side of these characters are coming through. And so there's a lot of that in this record as well.
When I get some time off in Charleston, I'm going to hit you up.
Do that.
And we're going to get barbecue.
That's good.
And we're going to go out on the boat. And we're gonna hang.
Let's do it.
All
I'm
right.
in. Like boat trip is a necessity. We have to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it. You got to call me.
I'm totally in. Well, the holidays. I hope you find some time to make fudge and chill with the family, and all the new music coming out in 2025, both on the solo side and the Shinedown side. I'm super excited about it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're excited too. Though I'm super excited to bring this record of mine out. Again, Mind Control is out now. Record comes out February 28th, and there'll be some other songs and videos released in the interim. And then we're actively working on the 8th Shinedown record that will be out next year.
And I know
sometime next year.
Sometime next year. Thanks a lot, Barry.
Yeah. Look, that's what we do. Barry gets everybody's hopes up and excited, and I just crush dreams, man. I'm in the dream crushing business over here.
Well, happy holidays. It was so good to see you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Always makes me happy. Love you. Good to see you.
There he is, Eric Bass from Shinedown. The new album, Eric Bass Presents I Had a Name, comes out on February 28th. And of course, the new Shinedown album is coming out sometime in 2025. If you want to check out the first single, Mind Control, check the links in the show notes of this episode. It's featured on the corresponding playlist. I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the podcast that features all of my guest music and all the artists and songs that we referenced in the interview. You'll also find all of Eric Bass's links, all the Shinedown links, all the Mistress Carrie links, and the links to the episodes featuring the other members of Shinedown. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday. Plus, every weekday, you get the sit rep with all of your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates in about 5 minutes. Plus, you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. You can join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern for my weekly streaming video show, Cocktails in the War Room. And of course, you can always hear me on the radio. Get the details on all of that and more at mistresscarrie.com. And I'll see you at City Winery Boston for the Mistress Carrie Grunge Brunch on December 28th. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.